Recording. All right. Hi, I'm Traci Brown. I am thrilled to get to hang out with you a little bit today from my home office in Boulder, Colorado. We're going to be talking about lie detection, fraud prevention, and hopefully my goal for you is to walk away with some tools that you're going to be able to really apply in the legal practice that you're with, but probably also at home with the family and kids. So here's what you got to get. People's pants are on fire around you all the time, and you haven't even noticed. And those lies, they're costing you big. And I mean time, money, and energy. And so it's really a good thing that you're here because by the end of our time together, you're going to have some tools to end all of that loss. So you don't have to guess whether someone's lying to you or not. Now, I've spent most of the last 20 years reading people, telling fact from fiction, truth from lies. And I've commented on big crimes and politics and worked on billion-dollar business deals. It's fascinating to me. But for all the big events that I've been involved with, this information has been most useful to me when I was dating. Yeah, you see, when I heard, wow, I had a great time, I'll call you next week, I never had to wait by the phone. And it's been even handier now that I'm married. The other day, I just come home from a 5-stop speaking tour around the country, because that's what I do. I'm a keynote speaker, and I spoke at the ALA conference in Denver. That's how I ended up here getting to talk to you today. So this is what I do for work. And my husband knows that when I come home, I like the house to be as clean or cleaner than when I left it. And this is hard for him because he's kind of a one-man tornado. And so he greets me at the door, come home from 5 gigs out on the road, tired, right? And he says, I have spent the last 5 hours cleaning the house. Now, I didn't even have to look him in the eye to know that was a lie. All I had to do was turn my head and look over at the kitchen sink to know that he was lying. So learning how to detect lies is really important. It'll save you time, save you money, save you energy. And so I've been lucky to get to study with some of the world's finest like police, law enforcement, right? And Green Berets, like special forces type guys. And I've dialed it down for you here today. It's all in the body language. You're going to be amazed at, once you start to look at people differently, what you can really tell and how many lies you're going to be able to detect. And so I didn't get involved in reading body language and lie detection because I'm with the FBI or police, special forces that you know about. Actually, no, I got involved in reading body language from bike racing. I used to be a bike racer. I actually got really good at it. And I grew up in Dallas, and I was 16. I was just getting my feet wet in the racing scene, starting to get some results and get some attention. And I got this call from these some of the old seasoned pros in town, and they wanted me to go on a training ride with them. So of course I said yes. Now, I mean, and when I say old, these guys were old. They're like 25. And so on this particular day, I didn't make it back to the bike shop where we started with everyone else. That's just what happens when you're a young racer. I got dropped out on the road, left behind when the pace got fast. So like I said, totally normal thing, not a big deal. But when I got back to the parking lot, to the bike shop, people were standing around and chatting. And my friend, he said, "You are not going to believe what happened to us out there today." And I said, What happened? And he said, "There's this guy, he's about your age. He just left us in the dust. He is unbelievable." And I said, we didn't know, I mean, how true that statement would become all these years later. But I said, where is he? Who is this guy? And he points about 20 yards across the parking lot. And he said, "He's over there. We think his name is Lance." And I looked over, and there he was, Lance Armstrong, this little guy with an afro and a headband around it, made him look like a Q-tip. And I could feel his attitude from that far away. And so from that day to the end of my career, I could not get rid of the guy. Everywhere I'd go, there'd be causing a buzz. And, for all the trouble that he's caused cycling, which has been a lot. If you need a refresher, he's been stripped of 7 Tour de France titles and lied about performance-enhancing drug use for years and years to try to save it. But he finally came clean. And looking back, the signs were all there. He's a textbook liar, and we're going to get into what some of those signs are. But for all the trouble he's caused our sport, I owe him a little bit of thanks for becoming a body language expert, because it was in trying to keep up with him and guys like him that I learned really quickly that at its core, bike racing is, at the elite level, bike racing is for little people. Now, you can't see me here, but I've got 5'9" to work with. And when I'm racing against people that are little bitty lightweights, I found out quickly that I couldn't just rely on my strength. I needed more. And so I started to watch my competition. I started to read them. And when I started to pay more attention to them than the road, that's when I started to win. And I would look for little things like the drop of the shoulder, the waggle in someone's hips, or and actually I kept track of it. I had this training journal here, and I would keep track of people and about what they did, and then what would happen next, because that's what's so important about reading body language. It's not about just reading body language. It's about understanding what people are likely thinking and then what they're likely to do. And so when you get down to the brass tacks of that, you can stay a step, maybe 2 steps ahead of people, and use it for a lot of good, right? Finding the deception that goes on. We're going to get into some of that in a little bit, but you can also protect yourself from a lot of the bad out there. Now, we know where Lance ended up with 7 Tour de France titles stripped. I mean, that's like being stripped of 7 Super Bowls. It is a huge deal. And looking back, the signs were all there. The signs were all there. I just didn't know what to look for. We didn't know what to look for. And so I thought it'd be really good if we got into some of that today, so you can sniff out and you can find the Lance Armstrongs in your life. Will that be okay? Okay, good. I hope it would. So here's what you got to get. Baseline thing you got to know is that you lie every day. Every day you lie. And I can hear what you're saying right now. Some of you are saying, Tracy, I go to church. I am in the Rotary Club. I would never lie. Yes, you lie every day. Now, not all these lies are sinister or evil. They can be to keep the peace. They can be to make people feel good, like the little white lies. But guess what? They look the same as the big ones, right? Because and there's a lot of different kinds of lies, okay? Because remember, we're going to dial this down to body language. Doesn't matter what kind of lie or any specific type of lie, like big, small, or specific type, like there's minimizations, exaggerations, omissions, deceptive denials, fabrications, and in the new one, it just came out right about a year ago, alternative facts, like brand new kind of lie. And so they all look the same, and it goes back to the body language. And here's why the police, FBI, special forces rely on body language to tell lies. It's because the body can't lie. Body can't lie, words can lie. And so what happens is you get into cognitive overload. That is the basis of why this works. So what happens when you lie is that you have to remember a lot of different things. So you have to remember the story. You have to remember, or you have to judge how you're being perceived. You have to make new stuff up, or maybe dial it back, right, to make sure that you're received just right. And it's a heavy load on the mind. And so what happens is the body language falls off the plate. And that's why it's a fairly, well, very accurate detector of deception. And so let's see. And so just consider, like, for a minute, what are some of the lies in your work where this could be really handy? Okay, so we can talk about some of the smaller ones, yet very important. Like, is your boss really happy with the job you did? Or is a client lying in a deposition, right? Or maybe the opposition, right, lying in a deposition. And another set of eyes on the scene of trained eyes, right, can really help know where to dig down and where to start to turn the screws on someone, so that the truth can come out. I mean, there's little lies at home. My husband does this all the time. It's like, hey, honey, what do you want for dinner? Is chicken okay? And he'll say, yeah. And I know, because I see him, and we'll get into what I see, that the guy does not want chicken for dinner, but he's trying to smooth things over. All right. So there's a lot of lies like that. Like, even, hey, how you doing today? Fine. Got it. Right. So when you know what to look for, you're going to be able to see all these things, both big and small. So let's talk about what to look for. Okay. Let's see. So we talked about the body not being able to lie, and that you lie all the time. And those lies can turn expensive very quickly. And whether it's expensive in time and money, or, potential, depending on the kind of client you have, even jail time, right, if you don't pick out the lies. So the easiest thing to start to look for, now this is with Americans, okay, with Americans, Canadians, like Western society, this means yes, and this means no. Okay. And so if it's when the body language and the words don't match, when they miss each other, that's when you have what's called a hot spot, which is like a red flag. It goes, okay, wait a minute, something's not right here. And so it looks something like this. Like, it looks natural, right? I would never do that. Right. Or you can ask me anything. Now, I had a client do that to me the other day who knows that I know this stuff. I said, what are you hiding, right? Bill Clinton did this. I did not have sexual relations with that woman, okay? And so these are the kinds of things that you can start to see. Like, people lie all the time. And so, pants on fire. And so when you start to look for these, you got to make sure that because the body's leaking an emotional state, right? The body's leaking true or false. And this is deeply unconscious. And when I say unconscious, I mean below the level that you're paying attention to, and below the level that you will admit to. Okay. And so what you want to do is always know more than is immediately obvious. Never leak when you know something's up, or when you suspect something. Now, here's the thing: to incriminate on a head nod or a head shake, really, like, seriously, don't do that. Okay. For yes or no questions, you have a high chance of it being right. Like, just yes or no questions. But when the story gets longer, you need 3 to 5 hot spots, really. I mean, a minimum of 2. I like 3 to 5 in one sentence, so that you're going to be able to have some accuracy about what's going on. And you don't want to confuse signs of anxiety with signs of lying, right? And lying is a mismatch of body language and words. Anxiety can be like preening and grooming yourself. Now, those can come in at certain times, and we're going to talk about that you want to use those for you want to use them for information, right? But it doesn't necessarily mean lying, and we'll get into how to find the truth about those in a little bit. Okay, so people will say things. I mean, even like, that is a beautiful baby. Right. So Look when they don't match. Okay, so here's another thing that you're gonna want to look for. Let's see, you ask people a question, and then they roll their lips back like that. See how my lips disappeared? That's a cousin of going like this. Like when people kind of cover their mouth, it can look a lot of different ways. That's holding back information, okay? Because it can signify a lie by omission, okay? And which is just not telling the whole truth. They want to say the minimum they need to say to think that they have you on board. Okay, so watch for that. It looks really natural, and it's always a sign. Okay, let's see, and we saw this from Lance Armstrong quite frequently. If you want to go look up some of his confession on the Oprah show, like he went in to confess his drug use, you'll be able to see that because he told really very little of the story, just the minimum he needed to say to get ahead of a very incriminating report that was coming out the next week. So you can find plenty of that on YouTube. Now, what about a fake smile, or fake excitement? Okay, remember, the body is going to leak emotional states. So a real smile is it involves the eyes, like right here, like you can see my eyes smiling. And a smile of someone who's either being subservient or not really very happy, they won't smile. It'll look like this. Like, it's hard to do because I'm actually like kind of fired up and excited like to be with you here today, right? But you can see the difference. A real smile is right here in the eyes. So a mismatch from emotional state is someone could say, I'm really happy, right? Not really happy. Now, the other thing that you can do is people will put a little frown or like an upside down smile in there, and they'll say, let's see how Britney Spears did this, because you remember back a little ways she was pregnant with Kevin Federline's baby, but he also had another girlfriend who was pregnant at the same time. Oops. And she said in an interview with Matt Lauer, well, poor Matt Lauer, and she said, we're really happy right now. See, the corners are down just a little bit. So you can get on YouTube and search for that video as well. So remember, we're looking for mismatches between the words and the body language. Now, here's one that you see, and you know who did a really good job of this one is Tanya Harding. You remember her, the ice skater? If you're old like me, you'll remember her. And also Tom Brady did it recently in Deflategate. And so this is what Tom did. They asked him in his press conference, straight up, they asked him straight up, are you a cheater? And he smiled really big and he laughed and his lips went in and he said, I don't believe so. I don't believe so. That is not the answer to are you a cheater. That says he's operating in some gray area there, and he probably had something to do with it. And so I actually so just from the body language perspective, we saw four things in the course of that question, 4 hotspots, because he also started to rock like this behind the podium, like with his feet. Now we have the least control over our feet. And so when the question got really pointed and really pointed, very close to potentially incriminating, his feet started to move, right? And he started to rock like this. And so his unconscious mind is saying, whoa, this is getting too crazy. We are going to run. And his conscious mind said, nope, we got to stay. And so you see this rocking at the podium, and then you see the big smile, the lips, and he says, I don't believe so. Now, if that's what you want to look for to know if someone's lying, is 3 or 4 hot spots, just like that in the period of one sentence. And I found out what that gray area was because one of the Denver Broncos coaches was in one of my talks last year. And he said, he pulls me aside when we're done, and he said, hey, do you want to know about Tom Brady? Of course, yes. And he goes, look, for years and years in the NFL, kickers have been putting air in the ball, quarterbacks have been taking air out. Someone just got sick of Tom, turned him in, and here we have Deflategate, $20 million later in lawyer fees. If anybody won that, it's the lawyers. So and it's all right there if you get some YouTube of Tom Brady's press conference on Deflategate. Now, he did one other thing in there, and that is that because usually, remember, he's on TV every day he's on TV, and he is smooth as silk. And in that press conference, he cannot get a word out. He's stuttering and stammering all over the place, which is a big red flag. Now, because what they teach, what I've learned and what I found to be true from these from my time studying with the police and FBI and special forces, is that a significant shift in behavior is the number one thing that they look for. Now, these special forces, FBI, police classes, let me tell you how they go. There's 30 of us usually in a room in the back of the police station for a week straight. And, I looked on the supply sheet, and like, I didn't see a gun like on the list. Like, everybody in there is cargo pants and a gun. And like, I'm either in the safest class or the most dangerous class, like, I don't know, but they give us a sheet, with everybody's contact information and job description, or at least title, on there, and 4 or 5 guys, and in the class it said their name, and then next to them it said polygrapher, and I kind of nudged the girl next to me, and I said, these guys have like 5 wives, like, why is that on the sheet? And she goes, no, polygrapher, it's the polygraph guys, the lie detector guys, right? So don't get that mixed up either around the cops, okay? So point being is that they look for significant shifts in behavior. So someone can go from really still to really fidgety. That's considered a hot spot. Or maybe they talk with their hands a lot, and guess what? We have someone in charge of the government of the U.S. who talks with their hands a lot, and guess what? When he lies, he's pretty. He'll, let me see if I'll scoot back a little bit and see if you can see me. He'll cross his arms really tight like this and almost hug himself, our president, and I've seen that several times from him when he's outright lying to the press. So watch for that, because it's a big departure from how he normally is to sit and be very small and very tight. And sometimes he'll move his lips around like that. And I didn't do a very good job of it there. But whenever you see him with that significant shift in behavior, that's when you know, wait a minute, pants on fire. So let's see, what else? How about shoulder shrugs? Shoulder shrugs are great because they show uncertainty. So when someone says, hey, where were you that evening that so-and-so got shot? Let's just say you're doing an investigation along those lines, and that's one of your clients, and they say, I was home. Right? So that says, wait a minute, they're not sure. They're showing uncertainty, right? So all of these things look really natural, but there's messages in them all. So you want to start watching with new eyes. And if you need confirmation, what will happen is that people will do the same thing around the same topic, right? So you want to look for consistency. And so it's okay to circle back around and ask questions again, and notice if you get the same response. Okay. Now, let's see. What about? Oh, this is good. What about contempt? Right. To show contempt is it's an asymmetrical smile. Okay, and so it may be something like that. It could be, hang on, something all the way like that, okay? And it's a very small leak. But why would you want to know about contempt, right? Contempt is defined as moral superiority, okay? And so this, you may have someone on your hands that has done something that they think they've done the right thing. Okay, they may think they're better than you. They may think they're better than whoever they've done this to, right? But they had a really good moral reason for doing it. They may still be lying, but you can pick out contempt, and that's when you know. Wait a minute, there's red flags up. You gotta, you're gonna have to ask some more questions so that you can find, okay, what's going on here. So there has to be more hotspots around contempt to really get some accuracy. But when you see that contempt, you need to pay attention, right? Because there's something going on morally inside them about why they did something typically, okay? Let's see. Okay, what about, let's talk about the eyes, right? Because everybody has kind of heard, like, oh, if you look up and to the left, it means you're lying. Up and to the right, it's remembering. Like there's whole charts you can find, especially with in neurolinguistics. Now here there is some good stuff there, but we want to go back to this whole idea about significant shifts in behavior, okay? Because that is the key to finding lies or knowing that someone's telling the truth. The eye patterns are unreliable. Some people will follow the eye pattern charts exactly, and that's great. Other people won't. And the problem is you got 60% of the time you're right, which means 40% of the time you're not right with that. So what I want you to do is just throw that out, okay? And still look at people's eyes, but look for significant shifts in the way people answer, okay? So everybody knows about the JonBenet Ramsey case. It's been, 21 years now, 21 years. And I'm here in Boulder, Colorado. It happened just over the way here. I could walk there. And, they just brought the brother and the dad back in because, little JonBenet has been gone. The mom has died. And they asked the brother some very pointed questions. And they said, hey, we found a baseball bat. We found a flashlight. And Dr. Phil said, did you use the baseball bat or the flashlight to hit your sister? And he said, no. And then his eyes went up, down, cross. Okay. Now, there's some inherent problems with the way Dr. Phil asked that question. You got to remember, this is for TV. It's sensationalistic. Actually, he asked, to get a confession, he asked too big of a question. Okay, so you want to make sure you're asking a question only about one thing. Okay, so you would never say anything about the baseball bat and the flashlight in one sentence. You want to ask those separate questions. Okay, got it? And then Dr. Phil went on and he said, did you hear anything that night? Remember, he's talking to JonBenet's brother. Did you hear anything that night? And his eyes went really big and he rolled his lips back and he said no. Right? And Dr. Phil kept going. You got 3 hot spots right there that says, wait a minute, he heard something. Okay, you don't want to ignore those. Don't just read down your list of questions, right? Because when his eyes go really big like this, that says fear. Okay, that says fear. And then we know about the lips holding back information. And then when he said no, his eyes did all sorts of different things. He didn't answer in the same pattern that he did to the 2 benign questions. Remember, because you want a baseline, you want to get that baseline answer from people, baseline behavior from people, and then notice when they shift, okay? And it's in the shift that wait a minute, something's going on. Now, Dr. Phil just kept going, okay? And so you gotta ask some different questions, okay? Ask some more probing questions at that point. And so some of the questions, and I actually got to talk to some of the guys who worked on the case. And I'll give you a little insight into that in a minute. But basically, they said that, how should I put this? The Boulder really screwed up the interview. They had a very intense interrogation training 2 weeks before the murder, and apparently didn't use the information or didn't use it the right way. When another municipality around here, Lakewood, called down to see if they could send some guys to help, they said, yeah, here's how you can help. Next time we go to the airport, you can carry our bags. And that's a quote. And so they just didn't want any help. Nothing happens in this town usually. So, I don't think law enforcement gets kept sharp around here. So, one of the takeaways is if you want to commit a crime, Boulder's a great place to do it, because they're probably not going to catch you. But beyond that, it's about learning how to drill down in a line of questioning. So you can say things like, so, okay, what do you think it would have sounded like as she got hit, right? Because the little girl, John Bonet, she got hit. What do you think it would sound like? What do you think the interaction would have been like right before she got killed with the person who killed her? And so you can ask questions a lot like that. You want to elicit tactile things: taste, touch, smell, if appropriate, an emotional state. Like, if you can ask questions that will bring those things out, what will happen is you will start to see mismatches in body language and words. You'll see a lot more hotspots come up, because here's the thing. Only real events are attached to those kinds of things, and especially emotion. Only real events are attached to emotion, and lies are not. Okay, so people have to make up emotional states to go with their lies. Okay, and when and it's easy to see, because we talked about the eyes, we talked about and because it's hard to fake emotion. That's why people get paid millions of dollars in Hollywood, is to go and fake emotion. It's really hard to do, and you'll be able to detect that when you start to look at body language. Okay, and so what else was I going to say? Oh, so when the dad gets interviewed, right, and this is really consistent. Remember, people will be consistent over time with their body language. You will always see him say, every time he's interviewed, "I did not kill my daughter, John Bonet." Okay, and he'll nod yes. And so, I mean, that's a big hot spot right there. Now, if you look at these statistics, of kids killed found in the house, 77% is done by the parents. And with sexual abuse, which there was a little in this case, I don't think it was a huge amount, but a little bit's even too much. There, 95% is done by the dad. So it strongly, very strongly points to the father, and his body language will back that up. Now, the case has been botched so badly that they couldn't bring it to court. And so what I would encourage you to do is watch all the video that you can. There's plenty on YouTube, and you'll see this and go, oh, there it is, because you've looked at it the whole time, but haven't maybe looked with the right set of eyes that now you're going to have. So another way to start to find the truth out of people is to get them to tell the story backwards. Okay, now, because what'll happen is the timeline gets mixed up. Okay, lies can be told forward only. Okay, when they start to be told backward is when mismatches come out, gaps in the timeline come out. Okay, so you don't say, hey, tell the story backward. It doesn't work. You want to say, oh, what happened before that? Oh, what happened before that? Okay. And what'll happen is you will start to see gaps in the timeline. Like OJ Simpson, I was able to get some transcript from some of his interviews. He goes, well, I was basically home, right? He was at one point. Basically, how can you be basically home? You're either home or you're not home, right? And so you have to start to get some of the details to fill in the gaps in a timeline going backwards, and that's when you'll start to dial down to the truth. You'll start to see those mismatches and know where you need to dial down a little bit more. And what'll happen is over with really hardcore in investigations, interrogations, people will just start to break down, and they may just admit it. And some of these interrogations are 12, 14 hours. I mean, they are not kidding around. And one of the things that, because, you know, you see, and I know that you all are in the legal field, one of the things that you're probably familiar with is some of these cop shows where they're turning over tables and getting really angry at the suspect and things like that. That is the number one way to get people to shut down altogether. Your job is to keep information flowing. Okay. And so what you can do is just start to be super nice to people. Make sure they have all the food and all the snacks. Go out to Subway. Just get to know them. Have lunch with them. Just talk friend to friend. And even though they're there, maybe not voluntarily for a deposition or those kinds of things, what'll happen is they will open up to you. And this was really perfected by some of the Germans in World War II. And this one fellow, and I'm sorry his name escapes me, but he would have his wife bake pastries for some of these POWs. And he would start to get all the information that he's not supposed to get because he made a friend with them. And so you want to make sure when it comes time to get the truth that you're doing everything you can do and being as nice and friendly and giving and really unexpectedly hospitable towards people, hospitality minded, and you're going to get a lot more information that way. So let's see. So I want to start to wrap this up a little bit. And I know that you have some questions, and we're going to do some questions via texting, because you should have a text box up where you can type in questions. But one of them, hey Trace, how can I practice? Well, there's never a time you can't practice. There's always someone around who's telling you something, like at work, whether it's with your boss, with coworkers, with potential clients, with the opposition. There's always a time you can look and just see what's going on. But if you don't want to stare down your friends or coworkers or your family, just watch reality TV. It's awesome because people are filmed candidly. Yeah, I'm giving you permission to watch The Bachelor, right? And so, especially when they get into the confessionals, that's where it's just one-on-one person with the camera talking about what they think. That's the time that you'll start to see these discrepancies. And it's really fun to watch. Also on the news, and especially with politics these days. I mean, we're in the post-truth era. Hardcore, and so it doesn't take a lot to just turn on any politician, especially Trump, and and start to see some lies going on. So let's see. And speaking of politics, what about the election cycle? We're about to go into a congressional one, I think, in a year. The president was a year ago. How do you know? How do you know if they're lying, especially in the debates? Well, the problem is the more you tell the same lie, the more you can start to be natural and rub the signs out. And so what I would encourage you to do, if you want to know a little bit about the truth in politics, is wait until one politician gets the other one off balance and they're not scripted, because scripts are really hard to detect lies because the signs are so small and they've practiced and practiced and practiced. Wait till one throws the other one off, and then you'll start to see the real feelings and real emotions and spur of the moment answers come out, and then you will really start to know, okay, who's lying and who's not. I mean, it's not about who's lying in politics, it's about who's lying more. Okay, so you can know that too. Let's see. What about words? Are there lying words? Yes, and we hear them all the time from our president. He'll say, "Believe me," and truthfully or honestly, or words like that. Or oh, this is a good one. You're not going to believe this. Like, yep, that's right. Stop any believing right then, because they're telling you the truth. You're not going to believe this. Here's the thing, the most simple answer is true. Okay. So the crazier the story, nope, not, don't believe it. Okay. The simplest answer is, the simplest situation is generally true. So, let's see, or if they may even tell you this is a crazy story, right? Or I would never do this, but, right, things like that can tend to signify deception coming your way. Okay, so people will tell you right away that they're fixing to lie to you. It's up to you to believe what's like behind the words. Okay, don't just listen to the words, because you'll get mixed up that way. And when people start to tell you that, just look at their body language. You'll start to see the mismatches. Let's see. And we talked about, we talked about eye movements, and you know about those right now. And so I am going to wrap up my portion of this. And here's what I'm going to tell you. You can find me if I can ever help you out, whether it's a speaking engagement at your company retreat, things like that. Please, it's bodylanguagetrainer.com. You can find me there. And, if you have quick questions, I'm always excited to help out and answer those just for no charge. So please, you can email me. It's Traci, Traci, at tracibrown.com. You can also get a copy of my book. Where is it? Hang on. Here we go. It's I just redesigned it. It's How to Detect Lies, Fraud, and Identity Theft. It's a field guide. Well, let's see. There we go. And so you can get that on my website or on Amazon, either Kindle or regular book. And it's just great to keep around to kind of keep yourself sharp. So remember, there is an endless supply of lies out there to detect. Okay, and there's probably one question that I haven't answered. One thing in your mind, you're probably saying, Trace, you raced against Lance Armstrong. You trained with the guy. You raced with him. When you rate, who won? Is anybody curious about that? Well, I'll just tell you, it was me. All right. Thanks, everybody.